Hi, this is Pastor Diane from Living Hope Presbyterian Church in Clifton, New Jersey. This is week 4 of the series of Lent meditations that I've been doing, and I'm basing these on a resource called Lent in a Bag that utilizes visual symbols for reflection along the way. Well, today's focus is on what it means to be a shining light, based on Matthew 5:14-16, an excerpt of what is commonly known as Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Well, this sermon is recounted in chapters 5-7 of Matthew, but rather than what we would describe as a traditional sermon, this might be better described as a series of teachings directed at the disciples that followed Jesus throughout his ministry. The crowd listens in, giving them the opportunity to absorb Jesus' words and consider how they might apply to their own lives. It is important to note that Jesus didn't go up onto the mountainside where this teaching takes place to escape the crowds. He recognized that those in the crowd needed to hear his teaching almost as much as the disciples. So using the pulpit of the mountainside, Jesus was able to sit with his disciples nearby, but also be in a place where the crowd could see him and hear him and know what he had said. Well, this short section in Matthew follows on the heels of the initial teaching, the Beatitudes or blessings, that many of us are probably familiar with. We might think of this initial section as the foundation for the rest of Jesus' teaching, not only here on the mountainside, but throughout his ministry as Matthew describes it. So listen to the words of verses 14-16 in chapter 5 as I read them from the New Revised Standard Version. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Well, today's symbol is a candle. Light comes in many forms. The sun allows us to see during the day and provides warmth. The moon, when full or nearly full, provides light during the night hours, and we see those stars that are like pinpricks in the dark sky that we might gaze at. Then there's artificial light fixtures and bulbs that provide different levels of brightness depending on what the purpose is of their existence. Light a room, close-up work like knitting or sewing, or possibly working at a desk, or maybe even just for ambiance. Well, I think a candle is somewhere in between those two. It's not exactly a natural light, even though it's made out of natural things, and it's not exactly artificial light. So I'd say it's somewhere in between. But there's a softness to the light of the candle. You could see it better if it were dark in here, but it's not. But it has fuzzy edges that to the light that create a transition between light and darkness rather than a sharp edge, like you might see if you were in a room and the light stopped at the doorway and into the other room. Yet in the darkness, where this light shines, it's visible. It stands out. Your eyes focus on the flame rather than the darkness beyond its reach. The source of light, more than the space around it, is what you're drawn to. But maybe that's what Jesus is getting at here, that the light he's talking about is meant to be seen itself, not just lighting up the surrounding area. That's really its secondary purpose. Like the flame of a candle, it stands out in the darkness. Your eyes focus on it. Jesus tells us that you are this light. The one that the people are supposed to see, the one that when they look, they see God at work. If you were to put a sign out next to you as you're standing being this light, it might be like, those ones that say men at work. Yours would say God at work as you're there. That's a bit of a scary thought, isn't it? You are a person through whom Jesus' light emanates. A beacon pointing to a safe harbor. Someone whose light shines so brightly that others can see God in it. Wow. It's intimidating. It's intimidating to me, and I've heard this many times and read it many times. But you can't hide your light. It's there. Putting it under a basket doesn't work. It shines right out through the little cracks in the basket. Besides, putting a basket over a burning flame is basically not a good idea. The consequences might not be too good. You're probably wondering how you can be Christ's light and not even know it, let alone how to shine. Good question. The short answer is that God created you to be a light. Psalm 139 tells us that God knit us together before we were ever born, giving us talents and personality traits that are uniquely yours and uniquely mine. Throughout your life, experiences you have had and people you've met enhance that gift, what God has given you at the very beginning, what God made and gave you, wove together in you before you were born. Of course, not all of these experiences were good ones, and not everyone who came into your life has been a good influence. But nonetheless, God has woven these into the tapestry of your life. No one else has the same one that you do. No one else can offer what you can. No one else can shine in the same way as you. You are unique. The Lenten season is the perfect time to take an inward look, to look at the one that you are and the one who is knit and woven by God. During this time of Lent, we're encouraged to meditate, reflect, and pray about who we are and whose we are. As you take that inward look, consider what you're good at. What do you like? What talents do you have? Are you a musician, a woodworker, somebody who likes to read well, or who does word puzzles, or whatever it is that you're good at? What do you like to do? Put those things together. Add them into how might you encourage someone else to see the good in themselves as you look at what's good in you. God uses the you that already exists. He doesn't expect you to become somebody different than what you are. You are the person that God has woven and knit together, whose life has been turned into this beautiful tapestry that even on the back, where you see the knots and mistakes, on the front, you see a beautiful picture of who you are today, of that person that God has you to be, of that light that can shine in front of others, the light that God says can shine, the light that you already are. It's not easy to step out and to climb up onto that lamppost and be somewhere where you are going to shine, where people are going to see you and use what God has given you, or see you use those things, where somehow you're going to reflect who God is. I don't know about you, but that's pretty intimidating to me to think about that and think, wow, what does it take for me to do that? And how do I not just focus it on me? It can be, for some of us, much easier to say, well, look at me, rather than look at God. But it's something we're called to do. It takes courage to climb up that lamppost. It takes trust, and it takes taking Jesus' hand to help him pull you up there. You, though, are the one who decides whether to shine or to hide your light under that basket and risk the danger that comes with it. The Lent in a Bag resource suggests singing This Little Light of Mine, but I'm not going to hurt your ears by attempting to sing. It would not be pretty. But I will share the lyrics. They're probably familiar to you, but just in case. The first verse goes like this, says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, oh, let it shine. The second verse is similar, except the first line, or every other line, is, everywhere I go, I'm going to let it shine. And then in the third verse, it switches to, Jesus gave it to me. I'm going to let it shine. And that's really what we're talking about, is Jesus has given you that light and asked you to shine it. Somebody once told me that we have a choice every day. We can rise and shine or rise and whine. It's up to you to decide which one's going to help you get through a day and which one's going to help you be that light that God has made you to be and to shine out in the darkness so everyone can see the God who lives in you. How will you let your light shine? Amen.